You will make it through. The fitra is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah by your side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. You will make it through. The fitra is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through.
And a lot of people ask me the question, what is meant by divine? What are divine books, divine scriptures? The English word divine simply means God. So in our case, when you come upon the English word divine, it's referring to Allah. In Allah's books, which is the Quran, the book of Allah, okay, in Allah's words. So in the divine books, such as the Quran and the Hadiths, we find examples of two kinds of texts or two kinds of sentences. Two kinds of sentences. And I want you guys to take notes of this. Take notes of this. Take notes of this. The first kind of sentence that you will come upon in the Allah's books, which is the Quran or the Hadiths, you will come upon restricted sentences or restricted text. Write it down. Sabrine, you got your notebook? For those of you who have notebooks and pencils, my kids here, and also the new Shahada, the adults and people like Sabrine who likes to take notes. What is a restricted text? What is a restricted sentence? What is a restricted verse of the Quran? I'm teaching you guys what I had to learn as a daya when I started studying the Hadith and studying the Quran as a kid from my teachers, from Yusuf Qaradari, from Omar Ashkar, from Sheikh Abu Atayib. I had to learn what a restricted text, what a restricted hadith was, what a restricted verse of the Quran is. Well, these are hadiths or verses that do not allow any wiggle room. They do not allow any wiggle room regarding following the requirements and guidelines in Allah's book. In other words, these verses are explicit and there is no opportunity for interpretation or change in their meaning. In other words, you can't change the meaning in any way. You cannot take what Allah has said or what the Prophet has said and change it in any way. You guys understand? It's restricted. Allah said what he said, thou shalt not commit adultery. You can't change that. The nas is clear. You can't change it. There's no wiggle room. You cannot commit adultery. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you cannot arch your eyebrows. You just can't do it. There's no wiggle room in that. Okay? It's clear. And I'm going to give you guys some examples of restricted texts from the Quran. Okay? And these are restricted texts from the Quran to consider in regards to allegiance and disassociation. So a lot of people, you might ask, Sister Laila, give me an example of a restricted verse in the Quran regarding allegiance and disassociation that cannot be changed, that cannot be altered, that there is no wiggle room. This is the type of stuff I had to learn in order to be a daya. I'm giving y'all some stuff, teaching you. Take notes, take screenshots. For example, this verse here, Allah says, in the interpretation of the meaning, this is why I got so upset. This is why people like myself, people like Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli, people like Karim Abuzaid, we were the only people I knew of. I've never heard anyone else. Other brothers seem to be afraid to speak out. They were afraid to speak out against y'all voting. You know, when those elections, when people were holding, when Obama was running for president, when Trump and them were running for president, I didn't hear none of these die in America speak out against it. None of this, like they were afraid, you know, to say it's haram, except for me, Kareem, and Sheikh Atli. Okay, we spoke out. We just came out and told y'all the truth. Because of this verse here, there is no wiggle room. You can't change this. Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, let not the believers take the unbelievers as supporters and helpers over the believers. Whoever does that will never be helped by Allah in any way, except if you indeed fear a danger from them. And Allah warns you against himself, his punishment, and to Allah is the final return. We can't change that, Allah. I mean, we can't change that, people. Allah is clear here. He's clear. He's telling us you cannot take the unbelievers as your helper, as your rulers, as all of you. What makes you guys think that Obama is going to stop the war when he's the one that sent the bombs to the Israelis? What makes y'all think that the gay woman, the green team, is going to stop the war when they're the ones that they all hate Muslims? They will come together to take us out. And Allah is telling us, any of you who do that, you will never be helped by Allah. Y'all think that this war is going away. What has the war done? It's been spreading since the Bush regime. It started with Afghanistan and Bosnia. Look where it's at now. Now it's going to Pakistan. It's getting ready to impact Pakistan. It's spreading. It done went through Africa. It's getting ready to hit. It's all going all over the place, all over Asia. It's going in Africa. It's going to eventually hit the West. The West will be the last part to get it, but we'll get it too. Where Allah is never going to help us because we keep running to the unbelievers, thinking that they are going to save us. This is a restricted text. There's no wiggle room here. But you brothers and sisters listened to these Muslims in America, these scared, uneducated Muslims in America that told y'all we need to have a voice. Allah is telling us the unbelievers will never give you a voice. They're never going to listen to our voice. They're never going to support us. They're never going to rally for us. They're never going to help us. Okay, this is an example of a text that can never be changed in the meaning. It's never going to change. Here's another one. O you who believe, do not take the Jews and Christians as friends, protectors, and helpers. They are friends, protectors, and helpers only to each other. And if anyone amongst you do take them as friends, protectors, and helpers, then you are one of them. And Allah does not guide those people who are wrongdoers. See that? These are restricted texts. These are words of Allah that do not allow wiggle room. I did not hear I've only heard 3 people besides myself speak out against voting. And that was me, Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli, and Dr. Karim Abuzaid. I've heard other brothers insinuate it, but none of them came out to say it's haram in America. I don't know why. I've heard many brothers try to tell y'all. The brothers in Texas told you to go out and vote. The brothers in Texas sent y'all ballots in the mail. The brothers in Texas went against these two verses. They told you that you could wiggle the verses around. They told you that you got to have a voice. They went against this. These verses do not allow wiggle room regarding the requirements and guidelines. These verses are explicit. There is no opportunity for interpretation or change in their meaning in any way. You guys get it? Do you guys understand that? Did I break this down, people in Zoom? Because I know it was kind of hard to understand in the book. I tried to rewrite it so you could understand. Okay. Now, that's the first type of verse. Restricted verses are verses of the Quran or hadiths that can never, ever, ever be changed in their meaning. Their meaning is what it is. We can't change them because of society. They cannot be tweaked. You can't tweak them under no circumstances. Then the second type of verses, this is what you learn when you are studying to be a person of knowledge like myself or a daya. That's what I learned when I was a kid from my teachers who were real scholars. Okay, the second type of text is the unrestricted text. The unrestricted text is the opposite. These words, these verses of the Quran or these hadiths, these verses, these hadiths do not impose any particular limits or conditions on the people who read them. They enable applying the idea in different circumstances. For instance, these verses or these words may advocate characteristics such as kindness, generosity, and justice without specifying a specific amount of kindness, a specific amount of generosity, a specific amount of justice, or a manner or a style in which they should be expressed. In other words, you can tweak these things. They may also explain additional aspects of communicating these characteristics to others. But they always come with a condition. You know how I'm always telling you guys, what are the conditions? Some things are lawful, but may entail conditions. I always tell y'all that. What are the conditions? Certain conditions may exist, or a demand may exist. So an unrestricted text, you know, the meaning can be tweaked to apply to different situations, but certain conditions must be met in order for it to apply. Does everyone understand? Am I making that clear, people in Zoom? Y'all understand that?
Yeah.
Good, Mila's here. Good. Okay, so those are the two different types of hadiths, restricted, unrestricted. Those are the two different types of verses of the Quran, restricted, unrestricted. We're going to talk about restricted and unrestricted verses of the Quran in our Qasidic Tafsir class too, later on. Okay? And now I'm going to give you some examples, like I gave you an example of a restricted verses, those two verses, which are the dalil that no Muslim on this planet should be participating in any non-Muslim elections. Ain't no kafir going to save the Muslims in Gaza. No kafir is going to save the Muslim anywhere. We don't participate in no non-Muslim elections. We don't tweak it. There's no tweaking. Okay? Well, I'm going to give you now an example of unrestricted verses, verses that may be tweaked. Listen at this. Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, Allah does not forbid you to deal justly and kindly with those who fought not against you on account of your religion and did not drive you out of your home. Verily, Allah loves those who deal with justice. Here, Allah is telling us we can tweak this. Allah tells us that for those people who fight us, who are non-Muslims, who treat us badly, we distance ourselves from them. But for those non-Muslims who are not fighting against us, for those non-Muslims who are just with us, who get along with us, we can deal with them. We can have business relations with them. Even with our families, we can tweak this to apply it to our family members. My family members who are non-Muslim, if they accept me for my religious belief, they respect me for my faith, and I have a relationship with them. But for those family members who are abusive towards me, insultive towards me because of my faith, I distance myself from them. I can apply this, I can tweak it and apply it to my job. Those co-workers who respect me because of my faith, who respect me because of my lifestyle, I can deal with them on the job, but those co-workers who disrespect me and are abusive towards me on the job, I distance myself. So this is an example of a verse that we can tweak. It's unrestricted, but it comes with the condition. What's the condition? They have to respect and not be hostile towards me. Okay? See, the condition exists. It can be tweaked with conditions. Here's another example of an unrestricted verse. O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even though it may be against yourself or your parents or your relatives or the rich or the poor. Allah is a better protector to both than you. So follow not the desires of your hearts, lest you may avoid justice. And if you distort your witness or refuse to give it, verily Allah is ever well aware of what you do. This is another example. Allah is telling us to stand up for what is right and be witness against what is right, even if it's against ourselves, even if it's against another Muslim, even if it's against our parents. But it comes with the condition being that we must be right. It must be truthful. It must be the truth. I can't bear witness to falsehood. I can't bear witness to something that's not correct. Like the big scandal that's going on the internet today with those two brothers in the UK, all the lies that those brothers are propagating. I mean, oh my God, they're being caught up in a web of lies. They're being cut down. Those brothers are just, it's atrocious. You don't be a witness to somebody who's sinned because you my best friend. I'm not going to lie for you. I stand up for what is truthful. That's the condition. So these are examples of verses that can be tweaked. Okay. So in Islam, we have to balance ambiguity. What does ambiguity mean? Ambiguity means more than one interpretation. Whenever there's more than one interpretation, whenever there's more than one way to interpret the meaning of something, we balance it, okay? We balance it based on what? Based on the Quranic verses that relate to it and the authentic hadiths that relate to it. So that's the question that many people ask. Sister Laila, if we're dealing with verses of the Quran or hadiths that can, be interpreted more than one way, how do we determine which way is best? Well, we look at other verses of the Quran that relate to it, and this is the science of connectivity, and other hadiths that relate to it. And we also look at the understanding that other scholars had of those verses, the understanding that other companions had of those hadiths. And then we determine. You guys understand? They have to meet the conditions too. the conditions that Allah set for it. Okay? I hope this makes sense. Does this make sense, guys?
Sister Laila, how do I connect them? Like, I'm not familiar with a lot of the Quran and the Hadith, but if I see one verse,
that's where you go to the people of knowledge. That's where we come in. That's why the prophet said you go to the people of knowledge. You don't do it on your own because you don't have the expertise. You don't have the knowledge. You will go to the people of knowledge and ask them, and we do that. We'll give you other hadiths and other verses that connect to it. We break down the meaning to you. You know, we'll tell you, like we do in these classes, you know, the history behind it and how to connect them. First of all, you're not going to know what's a restricted verse and what isn't. So that's why you have to, everything we do, we cannot teach ourselves this religion, guys. We have to learn from the people of knowledge. Because the average person is not going to know what a restricted verse is and what one isn't anyway. That's the problem. The problem that we have today is most Muslims are teaching themselves. Most Muslims are reading the Quran and walking away with their own distorted understanding. That's why I said every Muslim is supposed to have a teacher. The angels, when they pull your soul, they're going to ask you, who's your teacher? Because learning Islam is an obligation, and we don't teach ourselves. We have to learn from the people of knowledge. And there are enough people of knowledge out there where there's no excuse for a Muslim to not have a teacher. So when you read the Quran and something appeals to you, you're supposed to go ask the Imam. That's the job of the Imam of the community. One of the jobs of the Imam of your community, that's his job. He's the advisor for the community. Your imam's supposed to tell you what those verses mean, okay? But alhamdulillah, you sisters have a teacher. I'm your teacher. You can come to me and ask me. If I can't give you the answer, then I can ask Sheikh Morsi or ask Dr. Jamali. Okay, you got teachers here at this website that can help you. You got Dr. Asim. Okay, but for the other people, that's what your masjid is for. We got to bring back the Sunnah. We got to bring back the Sunnah, the responsibility of the Imam for the brothers. You brothers, that's what your Imam is for. You go to the mosque and ask the Imam, what does this verse mean? You know, and your Imam is supposed to be able to explain it to you. He's supposed to be able to do just what I'm doing. I'm not an Imam, but that's what your Imam, if he's a qualified Imam, he should be able to do just what I'm doing. Take these verses and give you the meaning of them and the hadiths to go with them. Everybody understand? Sister here say, you the Imam of the website. Nope. To be honest, guys, the website Imam is Dr. Jamali. Dr. Jamali is the Imam of this website. He is. He's the Imam of this website, not Layla. I ain't no Imam. Okay. All right. But now I'm glad that Sister Layla brought this up because a lot of pitfalls stem from this. Let's talk about the pitfalls. Misinterpreting Allah's words from the Quran and misinterpreting the hadiths of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one of the primary sources of peril when understanding and implementing the principles of allegiance and disassociation. This occurs when the texts are misunderstood as being without boundaries, and that's the problems. Muslims will read the Quran and don't know that a lot of those verses have boundaries. People will read the hadiths and don't understand that most of those hadiths have boundaries. And without the accompanying restrictions and conditions, this is how we fall into problems. You don't know the conditions of that hadith. You don't know the conditions of that verse of the Quran. And that's where the problem lies, you know? It is possible to make mistakes in a person's understanding of allegiance and disassociation if a person misinterprets these verses as having no restrictions. How many people did vote in elections because they believed, oh, I live in America, I'm a Muslim, I should have a voice. So voting, and Allah says we Muslims should have a voice. We should uphold the good, enjoin the good and forbid the evil. So maybe, if I vote for Obama, he's a black man. He knows about Islam. His father's a Muslim. Maybe I'm enjoining good. Maybe I am helping Gaza. I mean, that's just ignorance, We didn't know. You didn't know. Because ignorance leads to a lot of sins, guys. A lot of sins are committed out of ignorance. You don't know the restrictions. So we have to understand, guys, that the Quran, has restrictions. The words of Allah has conditions. The words of Allah has guidelines that you may not know, that the average person may not know. That's how Allah has preserved the Quran. That's how Allah has protected the Quran from being distorted like the books that came before it. As the prophet said, you cannot teach yourself. You have to sit with the people of knowledge and learn from them. It's the job of you brothers to learn the religion and teach it to your wives. You brothers are supposed to teach it to your wives, but we've gotten away from that Sunnah. We've gotten away from that reality. And in turn, the women are supposed to teach the children, but we've gotten away from that. We're too busy working, making money. The brothers ain't even at home with their wives. SubhanAllah, the women are out making money. They don't even see their children. So this is why we don't have allegiance to Allah's book. We don't have allegiance to this religion. We don't have allegiance to each other. We don't have allegiance to the Prophet's Sunnah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So a lot of pitfalls. So in order to understand the meaning behind Allah's words, we have to passionately, learn the religion and uphold the principle of fairness too. Remember, guys, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to beware of injustice. When we read the Quran and misinterpret the meaning, when we read the hadiths and take them out of context, we're doing an injustice to Allah. We're doing an injustice to the Prophet, and we're doing an injustice to the religion of Islam and to each other and ourselves. And remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned us to beware of injustice. He said injustice will be a darkness on the day of judgment. We got to get back to learning our religion the correct way, guys, from the people of knowledge. We have to learn justice, the limits of allegiance, the limits of disassociation. We have to be conscious of our actions, conscious of the importance of seeking the correct knowledge of this religion, not thinking that we can teach ourselves, not thinking that I can just pick up the Quran, read it, and I'm going to walk away understanding, what Allah is saying to me. That I can pick up a hadith book, read one sentence, and think I know the lawful and the unlawful. The principles of allegiance and disassociation require a thorough understanding of the Quran, a thorough understanding of the hadith, also a thorough understanding of the ethical principles that Allah has sent down to us. You can't teach yourself that. Subhanallah. So this is what I wanted to go over today, that seventh aspect, the seventh aspect of the approach that we have to take, to truly implement allegiance and disassociation in our lives.